I'm back with another 1-for-1 meal. One pan for one person. And this time I'm doing duck breast with sweet potato and a kale salad. That is a lunch you can be proud to send your child to school with.
Vegetables all day, every day.
It's just shit in a box.
I can't believe I'm in your kitchen. Voila.
We did it! Tequila all the way. So I have a friend who likes to go duck hunting and goose hunting and hunting, period, up in Canada. And every year he will bring me some of what he got, which I like because the whole animal is being used. But this year he brought me duck breast. And the thing is, he brought me duck breast without the skin on it. So I guess that's the way they fabricated it up there in Canada. And I said to him, I go, you know that like duck skin is the best part of the duck breast, like rendering the duck fat and the whole thing that goes along with that. Like duck fat is like gold. Why did you not bring me the skin? But he didn't. So I had to investigate, what can I do to make a tasty duck breast with no skin? Which I want to reiterate is not the way I would normally cook it. But I've got this beautiful free range, gorgeous piece of meat, and I want to honor that. And so I decided to marinate it. And so the first thing you're going to do, this meal, if you're doing it for yourself, like I said, 1-for-1, let's say you walk in the door from work and you're exhausted and you have to walk your dog. But before you take a shower or walk your dog, turn your oven on to 425 to get it nice and hot. And then you're going to take your sweet potato. And I want to try this trick of that. I'm just going to take a little bit of olive oil, just a little bit. And I'm going to rub it on the outside of a dry washed potato. And then I'm going to sprinkle this with some salt. Because my fantasy is that when I serve this, I will serve this whole, like a whole baked potato that squishes down and looks really beautiful and enticing, but that the skin will totally be edible, where a lot of the nutrients are, but it'll also be crunchy and sort of taste like a potato chip. So that's my plan. This is going in the oven, 425, for about an hour. So since our potato is going to take an hour, the other thing we're going to do to this duck breast to try to get it to be moist, since it doesn't have the skin on it, is we're going to marinate it in some olive oil. So I'm just going to put some olive oil in a Ziploc bag with, I'm going to use some rosemary and I'm going to use some juniper berries. Put those right in there. Oops. Or everywhere, in the bag or everywhere. And then I'm going to drop our little duck breast friend right into the bag. I'm going to zip that up. Sort of mush that around. I'm going to set this aside to marinate for an hour while my sweet potato is cooking. And then we're going to go ahead and make the kale salad. All right, so for one person, I think this will be enough. I've got 4 pieces of washed raw kale. And you might have seen me deal with kale before, but if you haven't, I want to remind you that I always begin by taking out the stalk in the center of the kale. It's really tough and chewy and not that lovely. So that's the part you're going to remove. So what I was saying was, if you came home from work and you have to walk your dog, you could get your duck marinating, you could get your sweet potato in the oven, and you could even make your salad, and then you could walk your dog and take a shower, and then by the time that's done, your dinner will be almost ready. Okay, so I like to do this by piling them up sort of all together. That might be too many, I'll do 4 at once. And then I just slice down, because what I want these to be just these thin little strips of kale. That's going to be a really nice bite for you, for your salad. Okay, so we've got, that looks like enough kale for one person. Then I have 3 red grapes that I'm just going to slice very thinly. Again, thinking about the kind of bite that you would want to eat. You might want to slice it in half. These are seedless red grapes, so there's no seeds. Okay, and then last, I've got some dried cranberries here. I'm just gonna take about that much, like a teaspoon. And I'm gonna just chop those up a little bit so they're not quite so big. And that's going in. Okay, now for our dressing, I have this dark cherry. It's vinegar, but I think red wine vinegar is more popular and would be good. But I thought this dark cherry, I happen to have this. I think I was experimenting with baking some sort of cakes, and I was playing with this flavor, or maybe it was a cocktail. I can't remember, or it might have been jam actually. But anyway, I have this sort of strange artisan dark cherry vinegar. And I thought it'd be fun to use, and it tastes good with this. So I went dark cherry, but you could use red vinegar, red wine vinegar. And I'm also going to use a little bit. This is probably a teaspoon, maybe half a teaspoon of balsamic. Okay, and then we're going to do about probably a teaspoon of honey to taste, really, and a dash of salt. And this whisk is way too big for this bowl, but I'm just going to try to give it a little bit of a mix. And then I'm going to add a little olive oil while I'm mixing it up. I think dressings are all about, oh yeah, that's good. It's sweet and tart. So we're going to dump that on and toss that around. And then we can just set that aside or keep it in the refrigerator while we're waiting for everything else to be ready. When we come back to the duck after it's marinated, it's a pretty quick cook. And then dinner will be served. We have our delicious kale salad that's all plated up and ready to go. We have our sweet potato that's just coming up on an hour in the oven. And now we have our marinated duck breast, and I'm gonna take that out. I'm not even gonna put any oil in the pan at all because there's oil on this breast already. And the pan is searing hot, so I'm gonna put this down. There we go. So the duck breast is gonna go about 3 minutes on both sides, searing on both sides, and then it's gonna finish in an oven at 350 for about another 6 minutes. You want your duck breast to get to about 135, which is medium rare. That's not the USDA recommendation. I guess that's 165, but most chefs serve duck breasts medium rare, and that's where I'm gonna do it. So that's about what it's gonna take to get our piece of meat to 135, which is what we're aiming for. I'm gonna season the top of this with a little bit of salt and a little bit of pepper. And now we have to just wait for it to cook. So this one pan meal, one pan for one person, really only uses the pan to cook the duck breast because the sweet potato is cooking in the oven by itself and the salad was made in a bowl. So the duck has been searing for a few minutes on each side, and now it's gonna go in the oven at 350 for about 5 minutes. I'm just looking for that internal temperature to be about 135. It's time to get our duck out of the oven. That looks really nice. And ideally you wanna let that rest for about 5 minutes. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and cut this on the angle so that I can present it on the plate to myself, which I really believe in that. I believe that it's important how you treat yourself. Like you're sending yourself a message that you're important. And I know that duck breast, especially duck breast that doesn't have the skin on it, which as I said, is not how I would normally do it. But honestly, it's really healthy. There's hardly any fat. It's good protein. That's a really nice meal for you to have. And I like the idea of garnishing my plate with a little bit of blackberries. And you can eat those, and then you're gonna open this sweet potato up, which, by the way, that totally worked without the foil. You can actually even tell how crispy the skin is, and look at all that caramelization just stayed right in there. Oh, that is so good. And that came out perfectly, and there you have it. A beautiful one-pan meal just for me. Quack. I'm gonna eat with my fingers because I'm alone. Subscribe to my channel. You can keep hanging out with me in my kitchen. It's a good place to be. Wow, that's really good. Needs more salt, but that's good.